Hi guys, it's me ChazRHD and welcome to the United States Grand Prix weekend of 2019 here at the Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas. Great to have you guys here for this US Grand Prix weekend and for the Practice 2 Watchalong here today, where we're going to find out who is looking good going into the rest of the weekend. Hopefully you guys, no matter what part of the world it is in your part of the world, hopefully you're doing well, and hopefully today with me you will be watching along and enjoying the session today at COTA. Now, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, there is a new graphic running along the bottom of the screen. Now, this is simply a stat graphic, a scrolling, amount of stats you can see there, and that'll be appearing from now on the streams. For example, these are just the basic stats of the track and what's happened in previous years at this track and in the US Grand Prix. For example, tomorrow, when we get to qualifying, there'll be some qualifying stats, and then when we get to the race, there'll be some race stats for you guys as well. So that'll be appearing this weekend, and if it does go well, then appearing from now on the channel. So hopefully you guys do like that, and also there may be some other new things coming to the channel for the rest of the weekend. I am working on some new, say, upgrades for the channel in terms of the graphics side or information side. Yeah, expect that possibly coming up later on in the weekend. But there was a practice session earlier on today, practice 1, which wasn't that representative because 2020 prototype tyres were actually used in the session, and they can be used in this practice 2 session as well. So today's practice is not the most representative of the season, but there were still some interesting times and interesting things going on in practice 1, and here were the results. So Max Verstappen ended up P1 from Vettel P2, Albon P3, Gasly P4, Ricciardo P5, and rounding out the top 10, Grosjean, Leclerc, Hamilton, Stroll, and Magnussen. And then from P11 down to P20, it's Kvyat, Sainz, Raikkonen, Perez, Giovinazzi, Hülkenberg, Bottas, and then Lando Norris. In the bottom 2, you can just about see there, Robert Kubica and Nicholas Latifi. Again, Friday practice drive for Latifi, as we think he will be in the Williams for 2020. So there you go. Those are the results of practice 2. But now, let's get into the teams and how I think this weekend they are going to perform. First off, Mercedes. Of course, they won the Mexican Grand Prix, and their confidence is, I think, sky high, considering that they didn't think that they would actually win the Mexican Grand Prix, and also they've won the last 3 races in Formula 1, despite not having probably the quickest car in all stages of those weekends to do so. So this team is really on a high, and I think this weekend, even though speed over a single lap I don't think will be that special for them, I think when it comes to later on the weekend on the Sunday, they are going to be there for sure, competing for race victory. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. Lewis Hamilton, of course, can win his 6th World Championship. All he needs is P8 or higher, and Lewis will be your 2019 World Champion and the 6-time World Champion, and only 1 away from Michael Schumacher. And, well, he is going to do it this weekend, let's be honest, because the car is, good enough at least to finish in the top 6. So Lewis Hamilton, as long as he finishes the race, he will end up being the world champion. But for the team, again, over a single lap, I don't think they'll quite have the best car. But when it comes to pace, over a stint, race pace, I think they'll be absolutely fine and probably have around about the best car. So yeah, look out for that later on in practice 2 when we get to the race simulations. But when it comes to the qualifying simulations, these two are going to be very, very quick in the Ferrari cars. We now come up to Ferrari, and yet over a single lap around this track, Ferrari should be clearly 1 and 2 because they have so much power around the very high acceleration zones around this track, and this track is quite high speed compared to Mexico. So Ferrari will have the quickest car probably up until Sunday. So yeah, I think Ferrari definitely, you can expect them at the top of the timesheets. The only thing is, again, when we get to the race pace later on in practice 2, it will be interesting again to see how much time they're giving away to Mercedes and Red Bull. Hopefully they can be a bit closer than I'm expecting, because I think when it comes to race pace on a Sunday, if it is sunny and hot, I think they are going to struggle, Ferrari, quite a lot on their tyres. So it will be interesting to see in practice 2 how they cope with that. But really, as long as nothing goes wrong, reliability issues or driver error, Ferrari should have the quickest car over a single lap. So they're looking fine, but when it comes to getting the race win later on the weekend, we'll see. We'll see, because we know they do have a tendency to cock that area up. And the last top team, of course, is Red Bull. Red Bull, of course, in Mexico, had a great chance to win the race. And really, given the pace of Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, they really should have won the race in Mexico if Max was not so immature, I guess you could say. But that's just the way it is. Max missing out on his 3rd consecutive win in Mexico. But considering the pace of the Red Bull car in the last 2 or 3 years around this circuit, I think Red Bull are going to be good this weekend. Not in qualifying. I think qualifying they'll be 3rd row, P5, P6. But when it comes to, the race pace and the race on Sunday, I am expecting definitely Max Verstappen to be very, very strong, because in the last 2 years, he started around about at the back of the grid and has almost got a podium in 2017. And then in 2018, he almost won the race from, I think, 15th on the grid. So if Max Verstappen does start around P4, P5, do not count him out whatsoever for winning the Grand Prix, because he is very, very good at this track, as long as he doesn't have a reliability issue or makes a driving mistake like he did last year by breaking his own suspension over I think, sausage curb. So hopefully he doesn't do that or anything like that this time. But yeah, Red Bull, over a single lap, they're going to be where they normally are. But when it comes to pace in the race, definitely look out for them. They're going to be good, and they're going to be right there with Mercedes and probably quicker than Ferrari for sure when it comes to the race simulations later on in practice too. Now let's get into, though, the midfield. And first off, let's get into Renault, who in Mexico had a very, I think, difficult weekend. Qualifying was quite poor. The race was a lot better with both drivers in the points, but the weekend as a whole could have been a lot better than it actually was. So I think there is still some disappointment there over how the weekend went. And Renault definitely should have been getting a better result than what they got. But coming to this race, I think they'll do better than they did in Mexico. I think Nico Hülkenberg will be right up there in the midfield. And I think they will have a better qualifying car this weekend than what they did in Mexico or Suzuka. I think also we need to remember, though, is that their poor qualifying performances in Suzuka and Mexico do kind of have similarities, because at Suzuka, of course, in the qualifying in the very cold morning of the Grand Prix day, it'd been raining heavily the previous night, so all of the rubber was washed off the track. So Renault, I think, were kind of affected by that. And that also happened in Mexico, because it rained overnight, Friday night into Saturday morning in Mexico. And that's why in qualifying, I think they underperformed. So I think if it does stay dry and it's a normal weekend weather-wise, I think Renault will definitely have a better qualifying performance. And I think Hülkenberg will probably be the front-running Renault driver, because I think Hülkenberg is better around this track. Daniel was not terrible here, but he has kind of a 50-50 record around this circuit. So I think Nico will be ahead, but Renault should definitely be stronger. I'd be surprised if Renault were as poor as they were in qualifying trim like they were in Suzuka or Mexico. That would be definitely a big, big surprise. Next up is McLaren. Now, in Mexico, McLaren, in qualifying, they were, great, but in the race, everything just fell apart. Lando Norris, of course, had that wheel nut issue, and Carlos Sainz really fell off on the hard compound tyres. I think that's mainly because the McLaren just wasn't performing on that tyre. I don't think it was a problem with the car. It was just the car wasn't suited to that type of tyre around that track on that day. So Mexico was, I think, a slight off day for McLaren. And I think this weekend they'll get back at it to how they were doing earlier on in the season, for example, at Suzuka or Russia. I think McLaren this weekend will be fine. Carlos Sainz, he should dominate the midfield battle again when it comes to pace over a single lap. Lando Norris will be in there. I'm not sure he'll be right there with Carlos because, again, Carlos has raced here before. Lando has not. So I think Carlos will definitely be ahead of Lando. But, yeah, McLaren, I think they'll be fine. I think Mexico, again, was just an off day. I don't think it was a sign of things to come or anything. And, yeah, I think this weekend they'll probably have just about the best car in that midfield battle. But now let's go on to the first of the two Ferrari-powered customers. First up, Alfa Romeo. Yep, this season, or at the moment, the last few races, they really dropped off the pace, and I don't really see it being any different this weekend. Alfa just don't have a car that can compete in the top 10 anymore, like they did around Spa or Monza or even Singapore. They just don't have that car. They don't have it anymore, and I don't see this weekend how things are going to be dramatically different, and I think they'll be around P12 or P13 in this Grand Prix. Next up, Haas. Same really goes for them. I think they will be better than Mexico, though, where they were basically racing the Williamses, which is so incredibly embarrassing. But, yeah, I think Haas will be fine. They'll be around Alfa Romeo. I think Grosjean will probably be the number one Haas driver this weekend because Roman has quite good pace here historically. So I think Roman will be the front-running Haas driver, and maybe he can get in and around, P11, P12. But yeah, Haas, they're going to be racing Alfa, and I don't really see them having a point-scoring weekend, of course, in front of their home crowd. Next up is Toro Rosso. Mexico was, pace-wise, it was a very good weekend, but the result they got wasn't quite what they wanted, considering how they were looking at some points in that Grand Prix. So coming to this Grand Prix, they'll be aiming to get a strong points finish to try and claw back some ground on Renault and try to stay ahead, of course, a racing point in that battle for P5 in the Constructors' Championship. And I think Toro Rosso will have a car that can be around P10, but it's going to be difficult for them to get a big points finish unless we get some retirements and a bit of a, mental Grand Prix. So they'll be in there around, again, P10, but time is running out for Toro Rosso, I think, after Mexico. Because Mexico, considering their performance in qualifying compared to Renault, they really did have to comfortably beat Renault, and they didn't. So yeah, I think time is kind of running out for Toro Rosso. But again, if we get a mental Grand Prix, who knows what they could do. And the final midfield team, let me just adjust this picture. There you go. There is the Racing Point driver of Sergio Perez, who had a fantastic Grand Prix weekend in Mexico. Qualifying P11, good position to start on whatever tyre he wanted to, and then just about won the battle of the midfield, of course, Formula 1.5. And coming to this Grand Prix, I think Sergio Perez will definitely be featuring in and around that top 10, because as of late, Perez has actually been performing quite well. And I think actually with Sergio Perez, he has been doing well this season. I think Perez has driven very well in 2019. I think because the car has been sometimes really far off the pace where it needed to be, I think that's why people were kind of talking down Sergio Perez at certain times. But I think Perez this season has been very good. Again, just hasn't always had the car to quite get, the performances, or not performances, but the results that he really should have got. So I think Perez, his last 2 or 3 races, isn't just an upturn of form. I think it's just a continuation of what he's done in 2019. But now, of course, with Racing Point's big improvements they brought around the summer break, they are just doing a lot better and have a much better car than they did previously. And for this weekend, I think Perez will be in and around Toro Rosso, and I think the Racing Point team will be in and around Toro Rosso. And I think Perez in the race has a good chance of finishing in the points, but it's going to be close between him, Ricciardo, Gasly, Kvyat, who else? Maybe Lando Norris as well. So it's going to be a tough weekend. But if Racing Point want P5 of the constructors, they've got to get somewhat of a good result this weekend to try and get after Renault in that constructors battle. Of course, the last team is Williams, and they'll be at the back. Latifi in practice one actually had a gearbox problem, I believe, and that's why Williams have actually had to take on a new gearbox, but that won't be a penalty because I think they were using the practice gearbox initially, so I don't think there'll be any penalty unless the new gearbox breaks as well. But yeah, Williams, they'll be at the back, and they won't really be able to race anyone because this type of track is not the type of track where, say in Mexico, the order can be quite a bit different because of alternate circumstances. So yeah, Williams are going to be clearly at the back of the grid. Also, interesting fact, this is Robert Kubica's first ever US Grand Prix because in 2006 he was a test driver for BMW, and in 2007 he was actually, of course, the race driver for BMW, but missed the weekend in Indy because he had a very bad crash, I think the week before in Canada. You'll remember that crash in 2007. And that allowed a very young new driver, you may have heard of him, Sebastian Vettel, to make his Formula 1 debut and finish in the points. So this is actually his first ever US Grand Prix, and good luck to him. Mexico, actually, for Kubica was not that bad. He was ahead of his teammate for quite a long time, but yeah, hopefully they can have a somewhat okay weekend. But before I come to you guys in the chat, we need to get into another bit of news, and that is, of course, the news that came out yesterday about 2021. And I am pleased to announce that the 2021 regulations have basically been agreed and announced as happening for 2021. Thank God for that, because honestly, if they didn't come to an agreement, I don't think we would be having new rules for 2021 at all. And the cars, they do look good. There are some interesting parts of the cars, for sure, as I'll get onto some other pictures here. So there, of course, is the front wing, and you see the N fences, a lot different to the current cars. And there you go, there's a side-on shot, and yeah, the side of the car a lot different as well. But yeah, these cars, they do look good, but I'm not yet going to get excited because we've heard, you know, plenty of things about 2021 and how it's going to improve the show and how Formula 1 is going to be amazing in 2021. I am not going to get excited over that until I actually get to 2021 and see it for myself. I will see it. I will believe it when I see it, basically. So yeah, the cars do look good, but again, let's wait until that season to see if what they have said will be the case will actually be the case, such as the budget cap of $175 million and whether that will be enforced correctly and people will be given penalties for going over that, whether the cars will be able to follow better than the current cars, whether just the field will be closer, the cars being slower or faster than they are right now. I will wait until 2021 before I get really excited or really think about it deeply enough. I will be eventually, guys, doing a video. And by the way, there is the rear end of the car, and you can see there the rear wing quite a bit different from the current generation of Formula 1 cars. But I will be doing a video about the new regulations because they have been officially confirmed. I don't know when, though, they'll come out. I might do it at the end of this year, but I'm thinking maybe the end of next year would be better because, of course, at the end of next year, we are set to go into 2021. So there will be a video eventually about the new 2021 regulations, but I'm not sure when it will come out. But I can guarantee you it will come out at the latest by January 2021. But it will come out eventually. But also, I want to make it as good as possible. I don't want to just, rush it out, a 10-minute rushed out video or a 5-minute rushed out video about the new regulations. I want to give it, its proper due, and I want to, do a proper video on it explaining what Formula 1 in 2021 is going to be like and look like and maybe sound like. So, yeah, I will do a video on it eventually, but I cannot yet confirm when it will come out, but it will be before a car turns the wheel in that 2021 Formula 1 season. But guys, with about 9 minutes to go until practice 2 here at the Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas for the US Grand Prix, let me know right now in the live chat for the top teams and all of the teams, the midfield as well. How do you think they'll do this weekend, and who do you expect to be looking good and not so good? And also, if you want to give some initial thoughts on the new 2021 regulations that have, been confirmed, then make sure to do that as well. And for the next 8 minutes or so, I will read out your comments and see what you guys have to say. But before I do that, just want to say, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage and do it there, and hit the notifications bell, and also hit the like button for more content like this as well. It really does help out the channel, hitting the like button, and it shows me that you guys do enjoy the content. But don't forget to subscribe, guys, because I will be doing a watch along tomorrow for qualifying and for the race on Sunday, and we do on this channel do consistent watch alongs for practice 2, qualifying, and the race. So don't forget to subscribe for that content. But of course, I will quickly have a drinks break, and then I'll get onto your comments, guys, in just a moment. Right, so let's see what you guys have to say in the live chat. By the way, great to see 233 of you. I think that's the most I've ever had for a practice 2 stream. I'm very surprised about that. Thank you guys for being here. That's great. That's great to see. But let's see what you guys have to say then. So Eric Hines says, hate the wheel covers though. I don't mind them. I mean, we used to have those. Ferrari brought them in 2007, I believe, and 2008. So we used to have them. I'm not that much against them. I'm kind of 50-50 with them, basically. I don't mind if they're there or not, but I can understand if you don't like them. They're not the greatest thing to see on a Formula 1 car, I guess. Right, let me find some other comments here about 2021. Let me read this comment out from Sebastian. I can't lie, Chazza. I believe in the drivers to deliver to get the win, but I just can't trust the Ferrari strategist. It's hard being a Ferrari fan. I will admit, and I know plenty of you guys who are my subs are Ferrari fans. I do kind of feel sorry for you because, you give so much in support to the team and the drivers to go and get the results to be world champions and stuff like that, but you constantly get let down by such stupid decisions. It's not like Ferrari get unlucky all the time. They shoot themselves in the foot so many times that they're practically dead at this point. So yeah, it's a shame. It is a shame if you're a Ferrari fan, but Ferrari are not going to be doing this forever. They are eventually going to find a strategist who is better than Inaki Rueda and can make sensible, good decisions. So, this won't go on forever. And I can guarantee you that, of course, Mercedes are not going to win forever as well. Right, let's find some other comments here. Mostly an F1 fan. Feel sorry for the Williams fans, though. To be honest, I'm not sure there's that many left because Williams have been so bad in the last 2 or 3 years. And, well, really since about 2003, 2004, they've not really been a consistent top team. I know in 2014 and 2015 they were a podium team, but most of that time since 2004 they've not been a top team. So ever since then they've just lost fans, and at this point I'm not sure there's that many left. There are fans, of course, of the drivers, but not sure Williams have that many fans of the team anymore. And there you go. That's the famous tower at COTA. Very, very high. And that's something I'll never, if I do go to this Grand Prix at some point, I will never be standing on that because I am terrified of heights, and especially that. As the F1 intro is now playing on Sky F1. So practice 2 underway in about 4 minutes time. Williams won't be in F1 in 2021. I think they will because of the cost cap. I think that has saved them, but I don't think Williams will be in F1 past 2025. I just don't see it, because they'll continue to most likely be at the back because of their inept and poor decision making, and I just don't think they can compete anymore. So yeah, I don't think Williams will be around for that much longer. I think if we didn't have a cost cap for 2021, I think Williams would probably pull out around 2021 or 2022. But let me now read out a final few comments if I can. Siege 2021 is looking good on paper. People are complaining that it looks too much like IndyCar, yet also claim they are classic fans. I mean, it's only more recently they've started to look different. I don't mind the IndyCar look. I think the IndyCars at the moment look pretty good. I think they're the kind of aggressive looking open wheel racing cars that Formula One should try and aspire to be like, or try and go that direction again. And yeah, the IndyCar look, it's not a bad look. I don't understand why people are really getting on F1 for that. I think it's fine. I think the IndyCars, to be honest, the way they look are pretty good. And I think the Indy cars in the last few years are probably better looking than the F1 cars in some aspects. As just looking at the TV, they're showing the tyre compounds called the C4, C3 and C2 this weekend. And also, just to let you guys know, before we get into practice 2, that also, alongside those tyres, for this session will be the 2020 prototype tyres. So the teams can use them. They did use some of them in the practice 1 session. So look out for that if that does happen in practice 2. By the way, very cold it is today. It's only 15 degrees for air temperature. Degrees Celsius, by the way, for air temperature at COTA. And yeah, it's a very cold Friday. So that'll help the tyre graining, I assume, for all the teams. But before we get into the session and the watch-along, just want to let you guys know, for anyone who's new, what we do for watch-alongs on this channel. So, of course, I do not show live footage of the session because that'll be breaking copyright law. So what I'll do is show a slideshow of pictures that will show the not the order, what am I on about? We'll show pictures of the cars on track. It will be 1 picture every 3 minutes, I believe. I'll also have a running order running on the bottom of the screen. It won't be on this overlay you see. It'll be on the old one, but I might convert it onto this one for later in the weekend. We'll see, but it will be on the old overlay for the running order, and that will show you guys what the order is, and I'll make sure to update it as many times as I can during the session. And then what I will do is provide a radio-style commentary of what is going on at the track. So if you cannot watch this session but only listen to me, then don't worry, I will take you through the session and I will keep you up to date with what is happening. And also we'll have the timer in the top left showing you how much time is left in said session. So, because we're only 30 odd seconds away, I think it is about time we got ready for this session. So there you go. And of course, there's not 20 seconds left in the session because it hasn't started yet. But if you are new to Formula One, practice 2 is 90 minutes long, an hour and a half, of course. And the first 45 minutes tends to be the teams trying out their speed over a single lap. And then the final 45 minutes tends to be the teams, seeing how quick they are with fuel on board for the Grand Prix on Sunday. As Lando Norris is currently in the McLaren, getting ready for this session. And Lando's, I think, headrest actually fell out in practice 1 or came loose. So hopefully that doesn't happen again for him. As the fans getting ready for the session to get underway. And nice to see some fans ready for the session to start. And there you go. The session is underway. That timer in the top left is about 1 second behind. And let me now get rid of that and get that up. By the way, this running order is not the live order. That is the finishing order of the last watch-along that I did, which was the Mexican Grand Prix. As the first car on track is the Williams of Robert Kubica. And there you go. There is Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari. But yeah, one picture every 3 minutes. That should keep you guys entertained as the session goes on. Yeah, first car on track is Robert Kubica on the prototype 2020 compound. So that's interesting to see that Williams are going out already on 2020 tyres. And here comes Alex Albon out of the pit lane on medium compound tyres. So he is, well, going through the normal, I think, practice run for this session. Probably won't be using the 2020 prototype tyres later on. And interesting to note, actually, with those 2020 tyres is that Mercedes used them the most in practice 1. And if that doesn't tell you, and also they were using some, or trying out some new suspension settings and new brake settings, that doesn't tell you that they've been working on the 2020 car for, 2 or 3 months fully, then I don't know what does. Is actually the Ferrari bodywork was off there and they were showing the power unit. That was very interesting, but now they've cut away, which is annoying. Yeah, Mercedes are clearly working a lot on the 2020 car, no doubt about it. And I think their lack of upgrades for this season has kind of proven that since the summer break, that they have now put full focus on to 2020. As also the other Williams of George Russell is out on track on those prototype tyres. And also on track as Robert Kubica comes into the pits. And Russell continuing. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz and the two McLarens are now on track. As Max Verstappen is still in the pits, but about to come out, I think, in a few moments, as the Mercedes car there of Lewis Hamilton on the TV is nowhere near ready going out on track because the driver is not even in the car. And I don't think Lewis Hamilton has actually arrived in the garage yet. As George Russell now starts his first flying lap of the session. Let's see how he does. By the way, interesting to note, and I saw this in practice 1, the new, or not the new, but this Circuit of America's track has become very bumpy in the last year or so. The bumps up to turn 1 are very, very bad this year compared to other years. So that is going to make for interesting viewing later on the weekend to see how the drivers and cars deal with that. As Russell now comes through turn 8 and turn 9. He's not travelling very quickly, to be honest, in the snail toothpaste colour Williams. And now comes onto that very long back straight where if you're going to overtake, this is where it's going to be. You can pass into turn 1 and a couple corners after this back straight, but really to get a move, to try and make a move possible or get a move started into other corners, you've got to start on that back straight because it's so long, so wide, and it's an ideal place for overtaking. As Russell now comes into turn 15 and 16 and now comes into that triple apex right-hander, a corner that is flat out. Not sure if it's flat out for Russell at the moment on the cold 2020 tyres. As Albon goes P1 on a 1:36.9, which is pretty slow. And Russell does a 1 minute 42.5. Yeah, not very quick times there, but Kubica is back on track. The two McLarens are on a lap, and the two Haases are on track on an outlap as well, I believe. We're seeing a replay of the bumps up to turn 1, and it is very bad. To the point where cars are sparking heavily going into turn 1, and that will make for quite an exciting show if you're watching the Grand Prix at the track from turn 1. And yet the floor bouncing very hard against the ground. Siege, do the 2020 tyres count toward the 2-tyre handback rule? Nope, they don't. They don't at all. The reason they're using today for testing for these tyres is because it's very hard with the current regulations on testing to be able to get tyres tested for the next season. So what they've done, I think very smartly, is dedicate a day of practice to running the next year's tyres to get that great amount of data to find out how the tyres are doing and whether any improvements, need to be made. So no, that won't count with the tyres they hand back. Of course, they're not going to use them for the rest of the weekend, but the tyres that they do have to hand back, I think they still will have to hand back, but I don't think the 2020 tyres count amongst that. As Carlos Sainz is now P1 by 5 thousandths of a second, as Daniel Kvyat is on a lap on those prototype tyres, and also on a lap of the two Haases, Kimi Räikkönen and his teammate Räikkönen Giovinazzi is on an outlap, and so is Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo. As Kvyat comes to the line and goes P1 by 0.4 of a second on a 1:36.5. A good first run there, but again, doesn't really matter because he's on those tyres. And of course, those tyres won't be used again this weekend. And let me just see. So Charles Leclerc, who is on screen, funnily enough, Charles Leclerc is now on track on an outlap. And Lewis Hamilton, for all you Hamilton fans out there, he is now in his car and he will be out on track very soon as Valtteri Bottas starts his first run of practice on the medium compound tyres as Kimi Räikkönen goes P1 on a 1:36.3. And Valtteri was very wide on entry to turn 1. And now he goes into the S's, a great part of the circuit where the cars look absolutely fantastic and the drivers just throw the car at the corners hoping it sticks. And Bottas, 1/4 of a second off Räikkönen after the first sector as he now comes down to turn 11, the bumpy braking zone of turn 11, which is, I guess, a hairpin, and now comes onto the back straight as Romain Grosjean goes P1 by 0.6 of a second, but is immediately replaced by Alex Albon, who now goes P1 by about 0.4 of a second. As now Valtteri Bottas comes through turn 12 and ends the middle sector and has done a purple middle sector. And now comes into the final few corners. As now Lewis Hamilton is on track and so is Max Verstappen. As Bottas rounds the triple apex right-hander and goes slightly off track at turn 19 and comes to the line and Valtteri goes P1 by 0.3 of a second. By the way, that's another thing I need to let you guys know about is track limits at turn 19, which of course famously in the past have been it's been a topic of controversy. This year at this Grand Prix, that will be placed. So if you go, according to the FIA, if you go over the curb onto the green, I think it is green tarmac, then you will have your lap time deleted. And we had Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Kevin Magnussen, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, I think, having their lap times deleted this morning because of them going that far off the track. As Charles Leclerc is now on his first run and is looking pretty quick, as he's got a bit of traffic ahead. There's a yellow flag in sector 1. Don't know what for. It's now green flag again, as Leclerc has Max Verstappen ahead of him, who moves out the way, and now Lewis Hamilton moves out the way, and Charles Leclerc comes into the final corner and will go P1, I think, with this on the medium compound, and he does by 3.5 tenths of a second. So he's P1, and by the way, his teammate Sebastian Vettel, who's on the screen, has just come out on track. So, as another yellow flag in sector 1. Don't know why. Oh, there's a Haas. It's Romain Grosjean. Has had a crash and has, I think, lost his front wing. And is it caught under his front wheels? I don't know. But I think that might be a red flag. Yep, it is a red flag. A red flag in practice 2 with an hour and 19 minutes to go. And Romain Grosjean has crashed, and I think turn 6. So we'll see in a moment why that is, but I might as well do the running order. So let's see what Grosjean did. Through turn 2, into turn 3. And, oh, lost the rear, spun round and hit the barrier. So yeah, that is basically the rear end not gripping up for him. That is quite a big crash. And that would have broken, well, it has broken his suspension, his front wing. Probably damaged the wheel and the brakes as well. So he turns into the third part of the S's, and simply the rear just falls away and he goes into the barriers. No disrespect to Romain, but it's not a surprise that he is the first to crash, is it? Not only in this session, but really for the weekend. So, because of that, it is... let me just do the order. So Charles Leclerc is P1 from Valtteri Bottas in P2. The track should be green again in a few minutes' time once they clear that Haas out of the way. So Leclerc is P1, Bottas P2, and then Albon is P3 in the Honda-powered Red Bull. Romain was actually in P4 before that crash, so that's a shame because in practice 1 and so far in practice 2 is actually looking pretty good. But as ever, destroys it all by putting it in the barriers. The Grosjean P4, but he will drop back later on. And then Raikkonen P5. By the way, Romain was on the medium compound tyre for that run, not the prototype 2020 tyre. And then completing the top 10, you've got Kvyat in 6th, the two McLarens in 7th and 8th, in Norris and Carlos Sainz. And also, I've just remembered that Haas do have a new front wing upgrade for this Grand Prix. I'm not sure if it was on his car or not. I hope not for their sake, because, well, they lost it. And of course, a team like Haas do not have that many replacements, so hopefully that is not the new front wing. And replay again, and yet simply turned into the third part of the S's and lost the rear, went into the barriers, and as soon as he lost the rear, there was nothing he was going to do to be able to stop himself, because at that part of the track you're going so quickly that it's hard, if you do lose control, to get it back again like you can in a slower corner. So that was a inevitable crash for Romain. And yet we have a red flag with an hour and 16 minutes to go. By the way, again, if you're new to F1, in practice sessions, if there is a red flag, the timer keeps going. But in qualifying, the timer does stop if there is a red flag. But completing the top 10 at the moment is Daniel Ricciardo, as Sky F1 have gone for an ad break. So let me just quickly rewind and get the order back up. So Raikkonen is P9 and Antonio Giovinazzi is in P10. Then it is Magnussen in the other half in P11, who I don't think did a very quick lap. No, he did not. And then P12 is George Russell, and the rest have not done a time yet, which of course is Hamilton, Vettel, Verstappen, Gasly, drivers like that. So let me just fill the rest of this order here with drivers who have not done a lap yet. So Hulkenberg, of course, has not done a lap. Neither has Kubica or Lewis Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen, and who else? Gasly, Perez, and Stroll as well. Quickly finish that up. And then once we come back from the ad break, hopefully the session will be back underway again. It should be. It should take about 7 or 8 minutes to get that car removed. There you go. Hamilton, Vettel, Verstappen, and Gasly, Perez, and Stroll, of course, also have not set a time. But that is so far your running order with a red flag in the session at the moment, as we're only about 15 minutes in to practice 2 here in Kota. So there you go. And yeah, hopefully once we come back from the ad break, the session will be back underway. And the next time I'll do the running order is once everyone has set a time and is finished their, say, first runs of the session. So let's see what you guys are having to say in the chat. Mr. Labman, Roman, better now than in quali. True, but knowing him, he might do it again. That's just the way he is. Roman is one of those drivers where he can turn up to a race weekend and legitimately crash in every session. He's that type of driver. Some weekends he can be near perfect and be so darn quick, but other weekends he can be seemingly incapable of driving. So he's a very flippant driver in terms of when he shows how good he is and when he doesn't. Right, let me find some other comments from you guys in the live chat. Frederick, wait, there's a Discord in this channel. Yes, there is. There is a Discord for the channel. It's a link below in the description as they're showing the cannon firing people into a bungee area, I think. Yeah, there is a Discord for the channel. Link below in the description. Make sure to join that Discord because it's the best place to get notifications for my videos and streams as the session will restart in about a minute's time. Yeah, best place for notifications for my videos and streams. And we have about 400 people on that server. And during a Grand Prix weekend, it can be quite active. So if you want to join the server, then go ahead and do so. And again, for notifications, because of the broken notification system on this website, on Discord, as long as you're active, it's a lot better. As Lewis Hamilton is going to come out on hard compound tyres as the session is back underway in Austin, Texas. As Hamilton now comes up to turn 1. And yeah, Lewis not going to be setting the world alight on those tyres, which will be very cold at what is already a cold venue so far. Only 15 degrees Celsius, which for these cars is pretty cold compared to Mexico and Singapore, tracks like that they've just recently been to. So not great temperatures for the cars, but it is the early part of November, so it's not exactly a great surprise. As also on track, Daniel Kvyat, Carlos Sainz, Robert Kubica, Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, Nico Hulkenberg, and Lance Stroll. As Sebastian Vettel comes out on hard tyres. And so does Sergio Perez as well. As Vettel now spins his rears coming out turn 1 to try, as I just said, and get those tyres warmed up at what is a cold venue so far. I don't know if it's going to warm up later in the weekend, but with it being so cold, that will make a bit of a difference later on the weekend for the tyres especially, and for the grip on those tyres, as Charles Leclerc is now on track as well. And here comes the Red Bull of Max Verstappen to set his first proper time of the session. On the medium compound tyres, locks up the inside front, the unloaded inside front in turn 1, but he's just about made it and now comes into the S's, where Max in that Red Bull looks very, very aggressive, throwing the car at the corners, and that rear end of the Red Bull is sticking near perfectly. And now is into turn 9, car bumping away. Also quite a big bump on the exit of turn 10, I think it is. And on the back straight that Max Verstappen is now onto, there is quite a lot of bumps as well. Glenn Charleston, hi from Vegas. Chazza, you rock. Thanks. Thank you for enjoying the content. And yeah, cannot wait for this Grand Prix weekend, because I think this weekend for sure will be a better race than Mexico, because, I mean, Mexico was anticlimactic, but this track is without a doubt better than the Mexican track, because it's so fast, this track. And if you notice in this current era of Formula 1, the faster tracks we race at, the better races we get, such as Austria, Silverstone, Spa, Monza. The faster the track in terms of its average speed, I guess, around the track, the better races you get. And it's a lot higher speed here at COTA than it is in Mexico. So I think we are in for a good weekend of racing, as we've now on Sky F1 cut to Martin Brundle watching trackside at turn 1. So I cannot bring you the times absolutely as of yet, but I'm sure they'll cut away pretty soon so I can tell you who is now in P1 or P2. As Kevin Magnussen is on track in the Haas. And again, I hope he has the new front wing, because as Lewis Hamilton comes through turn 1 again on another hot lap, I think. And yeah, it looks quite cold. Also looking by Martin Brundle's clothing wear, not wearing a short sleeve shirt or anything like that. And I've noticed in the grandstands also people wrapping up, so it's not the greatest weekend for fans to come to in terms of it being nice weather. I mean, it may have been sunny in practice 1, but it's not very warm at all, which is typical of winter, isn't it? When the sun comes out in winter, it tends to be very fresh and very cold. As Ferrari there going through turn 1 and turn 2. And now a racing point on a cool down lap, I think. Going through turn 1 and turn 2. And hopefully, in a moment, they cut away as Williams goes through. Hopefully, they cut away in a moment from this, because it is quite boring on Sky F1 to see this. As Sebastian Vettel goes through turn 1 as well. But let me read out some comments from you guys in the chat whilst we wait. Let me find a couple other comments. Botty Gamer, this track has so many bumps it looks like a Mexico City avenue. Find some others here. Don't Ask Me says, Grosjean was the last driver to get a ban. Only 5 drivers have had bans. Everyone seems to attack Max and Charles while ignoring Grosjean's crash and blame procedure. Yeah, I think people, they tend to blame drivers who are not actually... They blame drivers who exude a certain type of ego or confidence, about them. drivers who are, at the back or in the midfield, they don't tend to really talk about or complain about as much. Because, of course, if you're racing at the front of the field in a big team, you're going to get a lot more criticism because you're a lot more in the spotlight, of course, being at the front of the grid. But actually, if you look at who's had penalty points in the last couple of years, people can go on and on about Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. But if you look at it, and even people criticise massively Kevin Magnussen, but Kevin Magnussen made the point in a podcast he did a few months ago that a driver like Sebastian Vettel always gets more penalty points than him or Max or Charles, but Sebastian doesn't get branded as being a dirty driver. So it is rather weird, the branding, or I guess, determination of who is a dirty driver or not. Because again, some drivers you think are, unsafe or dirty drivers, if you look at penalties they've got, they're actually not that bad. And I think a driver like Kevin Magnussen, for example, gets way too much criticism. Way too much criticism. As Sebastian Vettel on the hard compound tyre, now coming to the end of his lap very soon, about to come into the triple apex right-hander. As it is currently Charles Leclerc P1 from Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Kvyat, Albon. And then Grosjean, Ricciardo, Vettel and Sainz. But again, I'll update the order when most of them come back into the pits. So I do have enough time to do so. As Sebastian Vettel now goes up to P5 on that hard compound tyre, which is an okay lap there for Sebastian Vettel. As Daniel Ricciardo now comes into the pits, and here is a Red Bull on prototype tyres, I think of Alex Albon. And it is Alex Albon on the prototype tyres, so we'll see what he can do on that lap as Charles Leclerc comes into the pit lane. And Albon comes up to turn 1, and the car on the bumps looking a lot better than other cars out there. So the Red Bull, even though it is very bumpy, is still looking pretty good over those bumps. But let's see what you guys have to say. Roman should always see a doctor after a crash. And Michael Flannery saying that... hold on, trying to find... Oh, there it is. Michael Flannery saying 2021 is going to be a great year for F1. Hopefully it will, but who knows whether it will be. We'll have to see when we get there, because I think most of the stuff they're saying will be the case won't be the case in that season. I don't think the cars will be 3 seconds off the pace. I think they'll be very close to the current pace. And I don't think the following situation is going to be quite as good as they're hoping. By the way, if you've noticed, Ross Brawn came out and said a few months ago that the loss of downforce was only 5%. Now they've said the loss of downforce for 2021 is 14%. So gradually that's going down as, yellow flag. And it's Antonio Giovinazzi who has spun at turn 7, I think. And he's got going again on the hard compound tyres. So Antonio going for a spin. And he's currently down 17th place and about second of his teammates. So not great so far for Antonio. But then again, he's never raced here before, so he should be given a bit of a break. As Sky F1, talking of breaks, they go to an ad break. So, yeah, I don't know what the order will be when we come back. But let me read out some comments from you guys to see what you have to say. What is the longest straight in F1? I think, is it Shanghai? The back straight in Shanghai? Maybe the pit straight in Mexico. One of the two. I think those two are definitely up there for the longest straights. I'm not sure though who wins that. Dib saying nope, Chaz disagree. They will lose about that much pace as they have literally no barge boards and very limited front wing upgrade potential. True, but the teams, and they'll find any which way to gain that time back, and they will gain it back. There is no doubt about it. I mean, if you remember coming into 2019 from 2018, I mean, the cars were supposed to be, what, 1.5 seconds slower? And in the first race, they were, what, 3/4 of a second faster. So I don't think they're going to be that far off. I don't think they will. I mean, they're not going to have all the barge boards and funky little pieces on the front wing that they have or have had in the past few years. But in the areas they can develop, they will find that time back somehow, some way. And, and also talking of, them bringing their estimates down, the F1 cars apparently for 2021, a few months ago, people were saying they might be slower than F2 cars, but now they're supposed to be only about 3 seconds off the pace. So that estimate of time is coming down all the time as they keep working on the cars and seeing how they can design cars that can follow better and be better for the future of Formula One. Let me find some other comments here if I can. Don't Ask Me says 2.2 kilometer stretch along. I can't read that out because I will mispronounce that to hell. Baku, basically. The Baku Straight is the longest straight. Yeah, I think, it probably is. Again, I don't know the exact numbers because I don't think about it often. What is the longest straight in Formula One? But yeah, that sounds about right. Let me find. And also, Daniel saying, don't underestimate ground effect. Also, yeah, ground effect. Once we get into, say, 2022, 2023, they are going to be gaining a lot more time through that once they really start to figure out how they can adapt it in certain ways to go faster. So, yeah, I don't think the cars are going to be massively slower in 2021. I mean, they might be at the start of the season, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds off, but by the end of the season, they'll reclaim that time back. No doubt about it. Right, let me find some other comments here if I can, whilst we're still on ad break. And actually, we're not on an ad break anymore, so let me go back to the session. And most cars are in the pits, so let's redo that order. So Charles Leclerc is P1 from Lewis Hamilton in P2. And then in third place, by the way, we are how many minutes in? 33 minutes into the session. Sorry, 33 minutes into the session now. My throat's still playing up as always. So yeah, Leclerc P1, Hamilton P2. Max Verstappen is P3, as we're seeing a McLaren of Lando Norris on track on hard compound. No, medium compound tyres. So Verstappen is third. And then it is Valtteri Bottas in P4. P5 is Alex Albon. And P6 is Sebastian Vettel. But Albon set his time on the prototype 2020 tyres. And Vettel was on the hard 2019, of course, hard compound tyre. By the way, I don't know if the prototype tyre is like the soft tyre for next year or something. I don't know. I'd hope it is a soft tyre so they can try and experiment with it. Yeah, Vettel is 6th, and then it is completing the top 10. Daniel Kvyat in P7. Kvyat has really picked up his pace in the last couple races. Suzuka, in the race, he was a lot quicker in Suzuka. In Mexico, he had a very, very good weekend, so that's good to see. Apparently, Daniel is still in the running for the Red Bull seat, which is interesting to hear. And if you compare his seasons to Albon and Gasly, I think Daniel does deserve the seat because I think he has had the best 2019. But Albon has done pretty well in the Red Bull. So it's really between Albon and Kvyat. I don't think Gasly will be back in that seat. As Lando Norris comes up to the line, and Lando goes P10. Ahead of teammate Carlos Sainz. So, Norris is now completing that top 10. And in P11, is Carlos Sainz. 12th and 13th is Pierre Gasly and Kimi Räikkönen. Watch out for Gasly this weekend because last year he was very quick in qualifying but couldn't do qualifying properly as one of the Red Bulls there getting very out of shape in the S's. He couldn't do qualifying because he had an engine penalty, but he was very quick. I remember in Q1 he finished up in P7 or something, so watch out for Gasly. He might be a surprise performer over a single lap. But at the moment, he is in P12. Raikkonen is P13. And then Hülkenberg is in 14th place, surprisingly. But I don't know what tyres he was on, so we'll see what he can do later on. And then 15th and 16th are the 2 racing points of Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez. And as we're currently watching Kevin Magnussen on the track on soft tyres. So the drivers are now starting to come out for that quali simulation run. So let me quickly finish this before they all start going massively quicker. Giovinazzi, 17th. In as a Red Bull there comes in of Alex Albon. So he'll be coming out on the soft tyres very soon. Antonio Giovinazzi, P17, and then 18th is Magnussen, but he's about to go a lot faster, is Magnussen, once he starts and does his lap. And then it is Kubica and Russell at the back of the grid. And yet the Red Bull comes back out after a practice pit stop. And he's still on those prototype tyres? Yes, he is. And then, yeah, Russell is in 20th. So that is your current order. As Magnussen starts his quali sim, he's throwing the car at the corners so aggressively. And it's so bumpy now. He almost lost the car there. And he actually went faster than Charles Leclerc in that first sector. Very aggressive driving here from Kevin Magnussen. But with 53.5 minutes to go, it is Charles Leclerc from Lewis Hamilton, P1, P2, and then Verstappen 3rd, Bottas 4th, Albon 5th, Vettel 6th, and then completing the top 10 so far, Daniel Kvyat, Romain Grosjean, Daniel Ricciardo, and Lando Norris. And then P11 to P20, it is Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg, Stroll, Perez, Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Kubica, and Russell. There you go, that's the order right now before they all get their qualifying simulations done. As Magnussen now comes through turn 16 and now comes into that triple right-handed apex corner that is flat out with low fuel, but in the race it will not be flat out at all. If you do go flat out, you'll be destroying your tyres as he now comes up to the final corner. Bit of understeer, but that's okay. And he goes up to P8. So P8 for Kevin Magnussen. And he is one of only 4 cars on the track right now. So, and we've got, who else? Alex Albon on an outlap, and so is Carlos Sainz. So I'll wait again until F1 does their soft tyre run. As we're seeing a replay of Kevin almost losing the car in turn 6, I think. Yeah, once F1 completes their soft tyre qualifying simulation run, then I will update the running order because it is about to change around massively, that order, once F1 gets on that soft compound. Let's find some other comments from you guys, as Carlos Sainz is currently doing a lap on the hard compound, but not lapping that quickly, as Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel are now on track. Don't know, though, what tyres they're on. Find some other comments from you guys if I can. Franz Roberts, Lewis Hamilton for the win, and what is the... And the comment cuts off. Find some others if I can. Adam Lando is on mediums. Carlos's time is on hards. Indeed. And Carlos is still looking fine. I mean, again, as you say, hard compound tyres. and he's in, what, P12. And he's only, what, 300ths of a second off his teammates? So yeah, Carlos is having a good session so far. Even though he does go all four wheels over the track at turn 19. And by the way, Nib also mentioning there, and it is true, that Lewis Hamilton's race engineer, Peter Bonington, or Bono, has come back. We thought he'd be missing this race, but he's come back from his emergency medical procedure, and he is back for this weekend, and he has been pictured in the pits. So he is back this weekend to help Lewis Hamilton get that 6th World Championship. As also on track, Kimi Räikkönen, Nico Hülkenberg, and Daniel Kvyat and Valtteri Bottas about to start a soft tyre run. And here he goes now. So let's see what Valtteri can do. His first proper run to see what his qualifying pace is like this weekend. As it comes down to turn 1, car gets in very nicely to the apex. Now into turn 2, which of course is flat out. And then into the S's of 3, 4, 5. And then the long one of 6 and 7. And he is half a tenth off Charles Leclerc so far. Now into turn 8. And then into turn 9, running all four wheels over. But apparently that's the track. As Sebastian Vettel a tenth up on Charles Leclerc's first sector. So Sebastian Vettel looking quick as Valtteri kind of misses the apex there at turn 11 as he now enters the back straight where the Ferrari power cars will be looking pretty good at this part of the lap. And brakes hard now for turn 12. And let's see what his middle sector time is. He's still half a tenth down on Charles Leclerc. So not very quick here from Valtteri Bottas. Not very quick at all. Sebastian Vettel, though, is just under 3 tenths up on Charles Leclerc so far on this lap. So Sebastian looking very quick. As Valtteri now comes into turn 19. Hopefully doesn't go all four wheels off. And he, I think, just about keeps it on as Kimi Räikkönen goes P8 on the soft tyres. And Valtteri Bottas comes to the line and does go P1 by 3.5 tenths of a second. But Sebastian Vettel comes to the line and goes even faster by just under 2 tenths of a second. So Ferrari looking very good. And as expected, Sebastian Vettel and the Ferrari team do have a very quick car over a single lap on that soft compound of tyre. Tyre that will be only good, really, for the for qualifying rather than the Grand Prix. Because in the Grand Prix on Sunday, if it is sunny, then those tyres around the long, fast corners will completely rip apart and also rip apart any hopes of a good result. As we're seeing replays of Valtteri sparking away, I think, down to one of the fast corners at the end of the lap. As here is Charles Leclerc on his soft tyre run? He's 4 tenths up on Sebastian Vettel so far. He is on the soft tyre, but the FOM graphic is wrong. It says he's on the mediums, but he's actually on the soft compound. But yeah, very fast first sector for Charles Leclerc. Almost half a second up on Sebastian Vettel. That is a lot to gain in just about half a minute. As he now enters the back straight again, where the Ferrari is going to be miles ahead of everyone else. And Leclerc now turns into turn 12. And Charles is still 4 tenths up on Sebastian Vettel. Slightly slower middle sector. As Leclerc now turns into turn 16. Car ahead, slows down, moves out of his way of Valtteri Bottas, I believe. Or no, it's Lewis Hamilton, actually. As Leclerc now comes into the 2 final left-handers. Stays on the track for turn 19. And into the final corner he comes. And Charles Leclerc goes P1 by 3.5 tenths of a second. But his final sector was not better than his than his final sector on medium tyres earlier on. So Charles Leclerc can go quite a bit faster, I think, in the final sector than what he did. Maybe the tyres started to wear slightly, who knows? As we're seeing replays of him flying through those very fast corners in the first sector. And the beginning, of course, of the second sector. As now, Lewis Hamilton starts his soft tyre run. And let's see what Lewis can do. Haven't really seen anything from Lewis Hamilton so far this weekend. And with 45 minutes to go in practice too, it's now time to see what Lewis Hamilton has to offer. As he now comes to turn 1, turn 2. And now into turn 3, 4, 5 and 6, the S's. And his car does look very good. And for the first sector, Lewis has gone 0.3 slower. And Charles Leclerc, just showing you how quick the Ferrari is in the fast corners. As now Hamilton comes down to turn 11. Brakes hard. Gets the front in. And now enters the back straight. And there's a car ahead that will give him a bit of a slipstream. It's a Williams. And yet gets a bit of a slipstream. That will help his top speed. Down to turn 12 as he brakes hard for turn 12. And now comes to the end of the middle sector. He's now just under 0.2 up. Is Lewis Hamilton. Very good there. And now comes into the sequence of corners that are very good for this car compared to the Ferrari. Now into the flat out triple right-hander. And now into turn 19. Will he stay on the track? Yes, he does. Oh no. He was slightly off there. Don't know if he'll get his time deleted. But now he comes to the line, Lewis Hamilton. And he goes P1 by 0.3 of a second. Well, that is kind of game on then. At the front, I think Ferrari are probably saving a bit of power. But they definitely didn't think Lewis Hamilton would be putting in a lap like that. That was an absolutely brilliant lap. Almost a second quicker than Valtteri Bottas was that lap from Lewis Hamilton. A great run there. And once everyone finishes their soft tyre run, then I'll complete the order as we then go into, of course, the race simulations here. Kota. As Martin Brundle is now on Sky F1 talking over and watching the cars at turns 16, 17 and 18. So we're not going to see what the times are at the moment, unfortunately. So now, read out some comments from you guys. See what you guys have to say. Hello, JB, who says, hey, Chaz, great to see you, mate. At quite a late, well, not that late of a night, but the UK is currently 8:45 at night, so great to see you. Let's find some other comments here. Jade Moore, I think they should have one race in each continent. It would be cool for the F1 team to travel to each continent. They need to have one in Africa. Yeah, they do. But the only track I can think of is Kyalami in South Africa. And we should race there, really, because that market has not been tested for Formula One in a very long time. The last time we raced in South Africa was 1993. So it is, due time we went back there, but I'm not sure we ever will, because I'm not sure the track is quite maybe ready for Formula One, and also I'm not sure the South African government is massively keen on bringing Formula One to the country. So we should race there, but I'm not sure we ever will, unfortunately. Even though we should, because it's a classic. Let me just adjust this picture quickly. It's a classic racetrack. It's a racetrack that is a part of the history of Formula One. We were racing there in Formula One back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. So it should be on the calendar. It really, really should. But again, not sure we ever will go back there, which is a big shame. As right now, we are Currently watching Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault on his soft tyre run. Now coming down to turn number 12. Let's see how far off he is after 2 sectors as he collects an absolute horrible amount of understeer and is now 1.3 seconds down after 2 sectors. Yeah, this is not a good lap so far for Daniel Ricciardo. As Pierre Gasly, by the way, P5 in the Toro Rosso. That is a pretty good lap by him. And Antonio Giovinazzi has gone P7 as Daniel Ricciardo now comes into the final corner. And Ricciardo comes to the line and goes P8, which is, considering that there's other runners who haven't done a soft tyre run yet, that's not that good of a time, Daniel Ricciardo. And, well, we could pretty much see why. Awful understeer. And also lots of understeer in turn 9 and turn 10. So, yeah, the front end of that Renault is not working at all. Understeering like a supermarket trolley, that Renault. As more replays of him sparking away in the fast corners. And now let's see who else is on a lap, as Romain Grosjean is now on the pit wall. So I think that's him done for the session. And they're showing his last 5 races since Italy. So 16th, 11th, DNF, 13th and 17th. Not exactly deserving of keeping a 2020 seat, those results. But his whole season really has not been that good. As Alex Albon is now on the soft compound tyres and goes 0.3 slower than Hamilton in the first sector. Let's see what he can do into the rest of the lap as he now enters the back straight, as Carlos Sainz is now on an out lap, I hope on soft compound tyres, so we can properly see how quick the McLaren car is. Because if it is faster than the Toro Rosso, which is quite close to Valtteri Bottas, then they're looking pretty good. As Albon comes up to the middle sector and is 0.8 down on Lewis Hamilton, which is okay, I guess. As Valtteri improves his time to a 34.0, but is still 0.8 of a second down on Lewis Hamilton. Which is not the biggest surprise, because this track has never been good for Valtteri Bottas, as Albon goes miles off at turn 19, and that lap time will be deleted. So he goes up to P5, but he will get that time deleted, because he clearly went all 4 wheels over the track there. As he now finishes that run. And now we've got Max Verstappen on track, so be interesting to see how Max does. And Max, this is him on his outlap, I believe. Oh no, this is him on his actual run. So let's see what Max Verstappen can do. Front end working nicely into turn 16. As Albon has his time deleted. Stroll goes up to P7 in the Racing Point. And Max now comes into the final corner. And where does Max Verstappen go? He goes P3 ahead of Sebastian Vettel. That's a good time. That's a very good time for him. So, with 36 minutes to go, let me update the order again, because I think most of it might be done now. So, Lewis Hamilton, P1 by 0.3 of a second, and that lap by Lewis Hamilton was a very, very good lap. I know it's only as Magnussen locks up going into turn 1. I know it's only practice 2, but that looks like a pole position lap, the way he was pushing. Charles Leclerc is P2, and then it's Verstappen in P3. Vettel is P4, ahead of Valtteri Bottas in 5th position. And then Pierre Gasly is the front-running Toro Rosso, or front-running midfield driver at the moment, as Kevin Magnussen has not improved on his first sector. Carlos Sainz goes P7, though, in the McLaren, but still not faster than Gasly. And I said, watch out for Pierre Gasly this weekend. And yeah, good times so far by Pierre and Toro Rosso, looking as though they have a good car. The Gasly P6 and Carlos Sainz in P7. And then completing the top 10 is Stroll, as Kevin Magnussen is not improving on this lap, even though he is pushing hard, I think. And then completing the top 10, it is Stroll, Giovinazzi, and Ricciardo, I believe. As Magnussen comes to the end of his lap, and let's see if he can improve. Oh no, we're not going to, because Sky F1 have gone to an ad break. So let me rewind and finish up that order. So Giovinazzi is 9th. And P10 is Daniel Ricciardo. So far, Renault are not looking that great. P10 and P12. That is not massively off where I thought they would be, but I thought they would be around P8, P9, but P10, and P12, that's not great, if I'm being honest. And then in P11 is Daniil Kvyat, who I don't think has done a soft tyre run in quite a few laps, so I think Daniil can go faster. Hulkenberg is in P12. And then Albon is 13th. He had that time deleted, by the way, by going all 4 wheels over the white lines at turn 19. And his lap time was actually a second off Lewis Hamilton. So he was only going to go into P6 anyway with that lap, and that not really quite good enough there by Albon, I think. So yeah, Albon 13th, and then it is Perez in 14th. 15th is Kimi Räikkönen, and then 16th is Kevin Magnussen. And I don't think Kevin improved his lap time at the end of that lap he just did, because he did a slower first and second sector. And then Romain Grosjean, of course, 17th, because he crashed in the first 12 minutes of the session. And then 18th, Lando Norris. But Lando, I think, once we come back from the ad break, he would have done a soft tyre run. And then it is Russell 19th, ahead of Robert Kubica in 20th position. So, with 33 minutes to go in practice 2. It is Lewis Hamilton leading from Charles Leclerc P2 and Max Verstappen in P3. And then P4 is Vettel, P5, Valtteri Bottas. And then from P6 to P10, it's Gasly, Sainz, Stroll, Giovinazzi and Ricciardo. And then from P11 to P20, it's Kvyat, Hulkenberg, Albon, Perez, Raikkonen, Magnussen, Grosjean, Norris, Russell and Kubica. So there you go. That is your order at the moment with 32.5 minutes to go in practice 2. But guys, now it's that time of the session where normally we get into the race pace. And for some reason, I don't know why it's showing this on the slideshow. Let me just fix that. So this one, yes, it was that one that was playing up. So there you go. Back to that. Yeah, let me know in the live chat, guys. What topics do you want me to talk about in the final half an hour here of practice 2? Because, of course, in the race simulations, not that much goes on and it can be quite boring. So let me know in the chat right now, what topics do you want me to talk about to do a Formula 1 or YouTube or whatever. And I'll talk about it with the final 30 minutes of this session now commencing. And again, don't forget to subscribe for more watch-alongs this weekend. We'll be live for the watch-along of qualifying tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time. And then live at 10 past 6 p.m. UK time for the race watch-along for the 2019 US Grand Prix. And also, don't forget to subscribe for consistent watch-alongs for practice 2, qualifying and the race until the end of 2019. And most likely for 2020 as well. Bottom right of the screen. You can subscribe there or go to my homepage and do it there instead. There is now some differences in the order though, so let me quickly fix that before I come to you guys in the chat. So Albon has done another run and has gone 6th. 7th is Pierre Gasly, but is still Gasly at the front of the midfield pack, but not that far off Albon. So Gasly looking pretty good. And then Sainz is P8. And P9, P10 completing the top 10 is Stroll and Giovinazzi. Those are two names you didn't think would be completing the top 10. Let me just do that. And then outside of the top 10, because Albon has improved, is Daniel Ricciardo in P11. And then P12 is Kvyat, I think. Just update it all. So Ricciardo P11. And then, yeah, P12 is Daniel Kvyat. And then 13th Hülkenberg. And 14th now is Lando Norris. So Lando has done a run, but has not gone very quick with it. Don't know, though, what tyres he was actually on. So we'll see later on what tyres he was on once the session finishes. Yeah, Hülkenberg 13th. And then Norris in 14th place. And then 15th is Perez. Interesting that Stroll is in P9, but Perez is down in P15. I know they're only 3/10 apart, the two drivers, but in the midfield, 3/10 of a second is the difference between those positions. That's how close it is in the midfield. So quite surprising that Lance Stroll is, that quick. And I will say Lance, I think Lance is definitely improving. Qualifying, not so much, but I think he is improving as a driver, and it is good to see that. Because if he wasn't improving, then obviously I'd be criticising him still massively. Raikkonen 16th, and then the two Haas's in 17th and 18th. But Romain Grosjean, I'm sure if he was on track, he could go a lot faster than what he did earlier on the medium compound tyre. There you go, there's the order, and that might end up being the finishing order. But yeah, guys, right now in the live chat, let me know what topics do you want me to talk about, and I'll make sure to talk about as many as I can in the final 28 minutes. Can't promise I'll be able to talk about them all, but I'll find the best ones I can. Right, so let's get into the chat. By the way, great to see 330 of you in the chat. By the way, hello to Tonka, who says, just got home. Howdy from Texas. Hope you're doing well, mate. And then says, howdy from Texas to all the regulars and new guests. Indeed. Right, let's find some topics guys want me to talk about. Right, I think I'll start with Mosi, an F1 fan, who asks, would you say this is the best Tilke track, up there with Malaysia? It's definitely one of his best. I'm not sure it is in the top two. I'd have to really think about it and remember all of the Tilke tracks he's designed, or what are the Tilke tracks. The new Hockenheim, I think, is a very good track. Of course, it's nothing compared to the old Hockenheim, but I think the actual Hockenheim track we have is a good track. People just don't like it because they remember the old Hockenheim. That's a good track. Malaysia, as you say, very good track. Can't believe it's not on the calendar. It's such a great racetrack, and also with the weather we get in that part of the world, it's a shame we don't have it on the calendar. And yeah, this is also right up there, but I'd have to properly think about it because I'm sure there are racetracks I'm not remembering. Turkey, for example, that's another one I think he designed. So Kota is up there, no doubt about it. It is a very, very good track. And I think the people who don't like this track, I don't think they have that many reasons to really not like it. Of course, they will have reasons, but I don't think their reasons are very good, put it that way. As the air temperature at the track has climbed a degree, as the sun has now started to come out at the track, as they're now all on their race runs. JB Chaz, what are your thoughts on who will get the remaining seats? Remaining seats. Let me think. Who is there, or who? What seats are remaining? If I can speak English. Alfa Romeo, of course. I think Antonio will keep his seat, and I think he deserves to, because I think in the last few races he's actually been really good, but because of the Alfa car and the team not being consistently good enough to, put him in good positions, I think that's why Antonio's results are not amazing. When if he was in a McLaren, I think his results would be very good. Yeah, I think Antonio will keep his seat, and I think Nico Hulkenberg will be out of Formula One. And then the other remaining seats is what? Red Bull and Toro Rosso. Daniel Kvyat, again, should get the Red Bull seat, but he won't. I don't think he will. I think Albon will get it. And if you compare Albon versus Gasly, you cannot deny Albon has been a lot better than Gasly was in that Red Bull. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. So, in comparison to Gasly, Albon does deserve the seat. But in comparison to Kvyat, I think Kvyat deserves the seat instead. But I think Albon will most likely get the drive. And then it'll be Kvyat and Gasly at Toro Rosso in 2020. And then the final remaining seat is what? The Williams. And yeah, that seat of Robert Kubica, I think will go to Nicholas Latifi, because he basically drives now on every practice one of every weekend. And if that isn't evidence that he will be in that car next year, I don't know what is. So yeah, I think Latifi is coming. Albon will stay where he is. So will Kvyat and Gasly, and so will Antonio Giovinazzi. But one driver market I cannot wait for is 2021, and I've actually got a video coming out after this weekend's race, this time next week, talking about the 2021 driver market, because I think that driver market will be one of the biggest yet in terms of drivers moving from certain big teams to other big teams. I think we're in for a very big driver market going into 2021. Right, let's find some other comments. You guys, Jordan Hill, do you think it's good to see teams' suspensions being tested by the circuit? It is nice to see a circuit that isn't just flat and boring. Old racetracks back in the day that Formula One used to race at used to be very bumpy, and it used to be a thing that the drivers had to cope with, a challenge for the drivers. If anyone remembers Interlagos, I think pre-2002, the pit straight at Interlagos was so bumpy, it was literally ripping front and rear wings off. It was that bumpy. So it is nice to see an old school element for this weekend in the bumpy track we have. And it makes the cars look a bit more spectacular, harder to drive. And I think it will make the race even more exciting this weekend, for sure. And even if the drivers have been complaining that it's a bit too bumpy, that's just the way it is. And as long as the bumps are not dangerous and ripping parts off of cars or sending cars into the wall, I think it's absolutely fine, to be honest. Right, let's find some other comments here. Don't ask me, did you fix the lap counter for the races? I might have it this weekend. But I'm not 100% sure. But I will definitely have a lap counter sorted for 2020. There is no doubt about that. It'll be sorted by then if I don't, for some reason, get it sorted before the season finishes. But yeah, I'm going to try again on Sunday to have a lap counter. And hopefully this time it does work. Jade Moore, is Charles Leclerc the new Michael Schumacher? No, I don't think he is. It's hard to say what Charles Leclerc is in comparison to other historic drivers. I can't think of a driver that he reminds me of, really. He does, I will admit, in the last few races with his team radio calls and at times is bitching on team radio in certain situations where he's not happy. He has kind of reminded me of Fernando Alonso in that aspect, but driving-wise, he's nothing like Fernando Alonso at all. So, yeah, I don't know what Charles Leclerc reminds me of. I think he's got a bit of a... I think driving aspect wise, he's kind of Jean Alesi-like for Ferrari. When Jean Alesi came to Ferrari, he was partnering the more experienced Alain Prost, who at the time was a 3-time world champion and, of course, ended up being a 4-time champion. And Sebastian, of course, who is Charles' teammate, is a 4-time champion. So it is a similar partnership, Prost and Alesi, to Vettel Leclerc. Leclerc, I see a bit of Jean Alesi in him for his aggressiveness at times, but it's not clear, what driver he absolutely is similar to. Mostly an F1 fan. What F1 merch do you have? I don't have that much, to be honest, mostly because I can't afford most of it, and I tend to spend my money on things that are more important, but I do have a couple things. I have a Ferrari t-shirt and Ferrari cap that I bought at the 2014 Spanish Grand Prix, and I think I have something else as well. I think maybe a Mercedes hat. I can't remember if I still have it or not, but yeah, not that much. But once I hopefully in the future start going to races, I will try and get some more, of the different teams like Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, teams like that. JB, what has been your top 3 races of the season? Well, number 1, Hockenheim, no doubt about that. That race was mental, absolutely mental. And by the way, I just want to say, in respect to our watch-alongs, there might be a video at the end of the year, and you guys can let me know whether you want to see this or not, where I'm going to kind of do a review of our watch-alongs and play back clips where me and Nib are, screaming and going mental. Like, I don't know, a review of the season, but playing our clips from the watch-alongs to, kind of go back and have fun with it. So let me know if you want to see that or hear that. But, Hockenheim, easily best race of the season. After that, second, I would say Silverstone, second. And then Bahrain, I'd say third. But Austria's got to be in there. Who else? Hungary, Spa, Monza, Suzuka. There's been very, very good races this season. Very good races. And I think people are really overrating how bad this season has been. It's not been that bad at all. Yeah, the first 8 races, 3 or 4 of them were not that great. But the majority of the season has been very good. And I think people need to be a bit more patient next time when we come into a Formula 1 season, calling the sport dead and, the season over after 7 races. Remember, it's a 21 race calendar, not a 7 race calendar. So if the first half of the season's not great, please do give it time, because there is always a great race around the corner in Formula 1. Right, let me find some others here if I can. How does low temperatures affect race strategies? Well, it's not really affecting race strategy necessarily. It's more so the performance of the tyre, not just for tyre wear, but also for the grip. Because if it's colder than the, say, good operating temperature of the tyre, then that means the grip of the tyre can be a lot worse than normal. As actually, I'm currently watching Lewis Hamilton, and his front left tyre is quite grained up. He's on 6-lap-old soft compound tyres, but it doesn't affect the tyre wear as much as, a hot race would. It more so affects the grip of the tyre, say, in the first few laps, because again, these tyres need a certain temperature for them to operate very well. If it's too cold, then you can see a lot of times drivers, moving about, locking up and stuff like that. So I don't think it will necessarily affect the strategies of the race, but it will affect the grip, in qualifying into the race as well. But I'm not sure it'll have a massive effect on tyre wear. And actually, to a certain degree, it will help the tyres in terms of overheating. Because if it's not that hot, then obviously the tyres won't overheat as much. Has currently got a replay of Alex Albon, I think, going wide at turn 19. And, well, he didn't really go that wide. I don't know why we had to see that. But, right, let's look for some more comments from you guys. Find the next one. Let me just find a good one here. Just scrolling down. Right, I think I've got one. Franz Roberts, I can't wait to see Russell in the Mercedes. Hopefully he can get into that seat, because I think he is a very good driver. I just don't think Russell has been given a fair chance to show how good he is. He's definitely better than, obviously, what he is in the Williams. I mean, look at Hungary, where he actually out-qualified Sergio Perez, and did he out-qualify Daniel Ricciardo as well, I think? I can't remember, but I know Perez and Ricciardo had a really scrappy final run in Hungary in qualifying, but still, for Russell in that car to be in that position is incredible. And I think that race weekend really showed that he is a very, very, very good driver. He just needs a good enough car to really showcase how good he can be. But if the Williams doesn't improve for next season, which hopefully it does, but most likely it won't, then I don't really see how Russell can get a points finish until he gets into a midfield car, which won't be in the Williams. JB says, 2019 has been a great season. People hate it because Hamilton is going to be champion again. But I enjoy racing more so than who wins the race. Indeed, I do as well. I don't watch Formula 1 to support drivers or teams. I watch Formula 1 to see racing. That is why I love Formula 1. And that is why I am completely neutral when it comes to covering Formula 1 for the channel, because I don't care who wins the race, team or driver. Maybe I care how they win it, if it's a disgraceful way, they've cheated or anything like that. But in terms of, again, who wins it, team or driver, I don't care. If Lance Stroll wins every single race from now until 2025, but all of the races are classics, I don't care. That's all I want, is great races. I don't care. As Ferrari driver there, Sebastian Vettel, spinning almost exactly where he did last year in the race at turn 15 on the hard compound tyres. We'll see a replay in a moment, but as I was saying, if Lance Stroll won every single race for the next 5 years, but all the races were classic races, I wouldn't care. All I want is great racing. And, well, that's a bit weird from Vettel. Come out turn 13, put the throttle on, and the car just completely spun around. And I think that shows what I was talking about a minute ago. Because of the cold temperatures on the harder compounds of tyre, it's harder to warm those tyres up, again, when it is so cold, compared to how it normally should be for a Grand Prix weekend. So that just shows you the challenges of a cold track temperature. As now Sky F1 go to an ad break. But yeah, 2019's been fine. I think 2019's been a great season. I think very similar to 2018. 2018 was a great season as well. I can only think of how many races this season? 1, 2, probably 4 or 5 at most races this season I thought have been not that good and quite boring, but all the other races I've had fun watching them and I've enjoyed them. So yeah, the season's been fine. I mean, it's a 21 race calendar. We've had 19 races so far, 18 races so far, and only 5 of them have been genuinely boring. And of course that leaves, 13 good or great races. So I don't know what people are complaining about. 2019's been good. And that's kind of why I wouldn't say I'm against 2021 and having new regulations, but I would like to see after 2021 them leave the regulations alone until 2025 to allow the budget cap to by 2024-2025 to take effect, so you can see teams in the midfield start to catch up with the budget cap of $175 million. But also, the longer you leave the regulations alone, the midfield eventually does catch up. But if you keep, changing the regulations every 2 years, the midfield is not being given enough time to catch up. So hopefully in 2021, the regulations do work, but we leave them alone until 2025, because again, changing regulations every 2 years is not helping Formula One. It's not. It's not at all. It's just, it's like a panic decision doing that. That's why, and I think on reflection, the 2019 regulations were pointless, because what is really that different from 2018 and 2017? The cars still struggle to follow, and the drivers have said that there is literally no difference between the cars now and the cars of 2018. So the 2019 regulations, again, completely pointless, and we never should have had a new set of regulations for this season. Never should have had it, because it was a pointless exercise and a pointless, pointless spending of money for the teams when they could have been saving up for 2021 or continuing the development of the 2018 spec cars into 2019 and 2020 that would have allowed, especially the midfield teams, catch up. But no, they had to go with a panic new set of regulations, and that's what happened. As we now have just under 9 minutes to go in practice 2, and again, the running order is running along the bottom of the screen, but if you are only listening, I'll read it out quickly. So, Lewis Hamilton is P1 by 0.3 of a second, Charles Leclerc P2, Max Verstappen is P3. I'll read out, by the way, the lap time of Lewis Hamilton's in a moment. Vettel P4, Valtteri Bottas P5, Albon P6, Gasly P7, Carlos Sainz P8, P9 P10, Stroll and Giovinazzi. Lewis Hamilton's fastest lap, by the way, is a 1:33.2. So that's only half a second off the lap record. So Lewis very quick so far. And then from P11 to P20, it's Ricciardo, Kvyat, Hülkenberg, Norris, Perez, Raikkonen, Magnussen, Grosjean, Russell and Kubica. But let me find a final few comments to read out. You guys, final few topics. JB, well said, Chaz. I'm exactly the same. There are drivers that I like because of their personality. Example, Vettel, Ricciardo, Norris, but I don't care who wins. I just want great races. Exactly. There'll be drivers that I do like more so than others from a personality perspective, but that doesn't mean I support them. It just means that they've got a good personality. And as JB said, and as I've said earlier, it doesn't matter who wins the race. As long as we get great racing, who cares? Right, let's find a couple more here before we come to the end of the session. Tonka, I would take a 2016 repeat any day. People poo-poo Rosberg, but he gave us the best turbo hybrid era battle with Lewis. In terms of the World Championship, yeah, he did give a great battle with Lewis. I will say as well, I've gone back and actually watched a lot of 2016 races during this season. That season was fine for racing. There were so many good races, but again, because people bitch and whine and complain that their driver and team doesn't win, we have to get a new set of regulations. And again, the 2017 regulations were also, for me, kind of pointless. When we could have had, say, 2021 in 2019 or 2020, if they said, right, let's not go with new regulations in 2017. Let's continue the same regulations as we had in 2016. And by the way, if you compare the field from 2016 to 2014, the field was a lot closer in 2016 than it was in 2014. And F1 was closing up on Mercedes very slowly but surely. And by 2018 or 2019, they may have eventually caught them. But no, they had to go for new regulations, which were not exactly ideal. But if you actually look at 2016, one, the cars could follow a lot better in that season. And also, the races were very good. Australia was great, Bahrain, Shanghai, even Russia was pretty good. Spain, of course, Verstappen winning, the wet Monaco, Hamilton, Vettel at Canada, Hamilton, Rosberg at Austria, the wet race at Silverstone, Spa, where, who was it? Hamilton came from the back and Hulkenberg was in second. What else? Singapore, where Ricciardo was catching Rosberg, Malaysia, Red Bull 1-2. You know what I mean? So many great races, but because one team wins all the time, that's why they went for the new regulations that season. And it is true. The only reason they went for new regulations in 2017 was not because they wanted to make the cars faster. It's because they wanted to stop Mercedes winning. That is as simple as it is. Right, let me find a couple more topics so we can talk about, and then we'll get to the end of the session. Reza, how do you think the 2021 season will go? I don't think we can say, to be honest, because we don't know anything, do we, about what teams are doing development-wise and who is going to be focusing more so on 2021 than other teams. Who knows? Who knows what the field is going to look like that season? But I think given the progression of Honda, I think Red Bull, if Adrian Newey can get the 2021 regulations right from the aerodynamic side, if Honda can keep improving, then I think Red Bull Honda is a dark horse for 2021 and after that. And I think McLaren should close up a bit. If Renault are still in Formula 1, they've got to close up, or else they might as well leave Formula 1. And I think you'll see other teams like Racing Point also close up a bit, but I don't think we can really say at the moment how the season will go and, who is going to be where. I think for 2020 we kind of can. I think Mercedes are still the favourites for 2020 because clearly they've been developing for 2020 since the summer break. And I think they are doing that a bit more than Ferrari have been. So yeah, Mercedes I'd still put as favourites. Ferrari will come with a better car next season, in my opinion, but I'm not sure that will result in a World Championship. Red Bull will be a lot better in next season's World Championship because they will have, a year's experience of Honda. So they'll know each other better and their relationship will be better. And they'll know exactly how to build the 2020 car to get the best overall package, from the engine and the aerodynamics and stuff like that. And then McLaren have been developing the 2020 car since the French Grand Prix, so McLaren should close up, say, by 2 or 3 tenths of a second. Renault should be better next season. I don't think they'll be fighting at the absolute front of the midfield, but they should be a lot stronger. And then I think Racing Point will be stronger because I think next season, now that the money from Lawrence Stroll will now start to kick in, I think they'll start to really use that and utilize that money well. And I think next season you'll see them start off a lot stronger than they started 2019. And I think Racing Point will be kind of for the whole season how they've been in the last few races. So look out for Racing Point next season. Alpha, I think Alpha at the moment are on course to continue to drop off next season, which could cause Kimi Räikkönen to retire. Toro Rosso, they'll probably drop off slightly. And then Haas should improve, but not massively. And then Williams will probably stay the same. So I think we are in for an interesting 2020, but I think most of the order will remain the same. The only movers I think we'll see is probably, compared to, say, the start of 2019, is you'll see Ferrari a lot stronger than they were at the start of 2019. And that same goes for Red Bull, but I think Mercedes will still be very good. McLaren will start off stronger compared to the start of 2019. Renault should as well, and so will Racing Point. So I think we are in for a good 2020 for sure, but only 3 races to go, of course, in 2019, as we've now got less than 1 minute to go in practice 2. And let me read out a final couple comments from you guys. Find good final comments before we get to the end of the session in about half a minute. Eugene Kelly, I'd love to see Carlos and Max battle head-to-head at Red Bull, but we all know Max's dad won't let that happen. It's unfortunate, it is, because if those two were in the same team right now, I think it would be beneficial for Max Verstappen, to be honest, if they do want to get the best out of Max Verstappen, because they still need someone who is not going to be, say, beating Max, but again, pushing Max to be as quick as possible. And Carlos definitely would do that. But the session, guys. Oh, as Lance Stroll almost collides at turn 16 with a McLaren. Don't know who it was, the McLaren. But there you go. That is, guys, practice 2 over and done with. So there you go. Practice 2 is over. And let's have a quick discussion, I guess, about what has happened in this practice session today. So for Ferrari, I think Ferrari have a bit more pace to come, but Lewis Hamilton's lap of a 1:33.2, that has really put the cat amongst the pigeons, because that time is not a time that they were expecting him in that car to do. We know Lewis is good here, but that is a very, very quick time, and that will worry Ferrari a bit tomorrow. So if Hamilton can replicate that, then I think he in that car is looking good, and Ferrari are still looking good for pole, but it's, you know, it's close if Hamilton can replicate that time. Valtteri Bottas, though, does have to improve his lap time. Red Bull, I think Red Bull will end up on the 3rd row tomorrow, but they are not that far away in case of any reliability issues or driver error to capitalise, I think, Red Bull. And then I think in the midfield, I think McLaren and Toro Rosso are the 2 front-running cars in the midfield at the moment. Toro Rosso, you could maybe argue, are ahead of the rest of the midfield, which is exactly what they need, again, if they want to beat Renault in the Constructors. Talking to Renault, an okay day, I think, for Renault. They definitely need to improve tomorrow, but we'll see if they can. Who else have we got? Alpha, an okay day. Giovinazzi P10, that's pretty good. Kimi Raikkonen, though, down in P16, I believe. So, an okay day for Alpha. Very bad for Haas, 17th and 18th of their home Grand Prix. And, of course, Romain Grosjean crashing out of practice 2, the man on screen. And then who else have we got? Racing Point. Racing Point, I think they'll be in there somewhere tomorrow. They do have a car that can be in there competing maybe to just about sneak into Q3, but it will be difficult. And of course, Williams are at the very, very back. But before I go, I'm just going to have a quick look. And by the way, JB, Romain Grosjean crashed at turn 4, I think it is, or turn 5. I'm going to have a quick look to see if I can get the final results of practice 2 up on the screen, but I can't at the moment because they're not showing them. So, guys, that is it for the stream today. And thank you guys for coming along. And again, great to see so many of you watching this live. That's the most, today is the most amount of viewers I've had for a practice watch along in quite a few races. So thank you very much for that. And hopefully you guys will join us at 8 p.m. UK time tomorrow for the qualifying watch along for the 2019 US Grand Prix. And also, after qualifying and the qualifying watch-along finishes, which will be, 10:30ish, the qualifying review will be out at about 11:15 p.m. UK time for you guys. And then, of course, we have the race on the Sunday. So don't forget to subscribe for that, guys. Bottom right of the screen. You can do it right there. Or go to my homepage and subscribe there and hit the notifications bell for more content like this. And also hit the like button for more content like this. And yeah, hitting the like button, please do, because it does help out the channel grow, and it does show me whether you guys enjoy the content and you want to see the content continue and, you know, prosper going into the future. Comment down below what you thought of this video, and comment down below what did you think of the topics I was talking about at the end of the stream there, and what have you thought so far of the pace of the respective teams? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to join our Discord server, link below in the description. That's the best place for notifications, my videos and streams. And we have about 400 people on that server, so it is quite active on a race weekend. So if you do want to be a part of the Chazza HD F1 community, then make sure to go and join that. Follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110. Check out my website, chazzahd.com. For more content like this. And also don't forget to hit the like on my Facebook page. That's ChazzaHDF1 on Facebook. But until qualifying, guys, for the 2019 United States Grand Prix, it has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye.